This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user IcyClouds456. My family wants me to join them for Christmas after disowning me over 8 years ago. Need advice on whether to go or not to go. After being disowned 8 years ago, my family has invited me, my wife, 27 female, and my daughter, 1 female, for Christmas. After getting conflicting advice from my friends, one of my buddies told me to post my dilemma here to see what random internet strangers would say. I, 25 male, am the youngest of 4 kids between my mom, 52 female, and my dad, 54 male. My siblings are, fake names, Michael, 31 male, Sarah, 28 female, and my twin brother Casey, 25 male. For context, growing up, I was the black sheep of the family, and I knew that from a very young age. You see, my family is full of athletes. My dad was a star basketball player for a D2 school. My mom played volleyball. Michael played soccer. Sarah played softball, and Casey was the star running back for the football team. I was never really interested in any of those physical sports, but rather I was interested in archery, which my family called a wimpy sport. My parents were always invested in my siblings and rarely ever attended my events, to the point where I basically had to beg for them to come to my tournaments. Between the ages of 14 and 16, I participated in about 20 tournaments, while my parents only showed up to 1. They never neglected me, but they were never emotionally there for me as they were for my siblings, and as a teenager, I resented that. Whenever I tried to bring this up to them, they would always call me an attention seeker. But however, this is not why I was disowned by my family. When I was 15, I began dating Amy, 25 female today, who was in the same grade as me at the time. After about 6 or 7 months of dating, I introduced her to my folks and my siblings, and they all really liked her. I know I was young, but I could see myself having a future with her. Almost 2 years later, one of Amy's ex-friends told me that she had been cheating on me for a couple of months. At the time, I didn't know who the guy was, but after confronting her, she told me that it was my twin brother. She basically told me that while at first she loved me, the love she had for my brother surpasses that. Later that day, when I confronted Casey at home, I was so enraged that I sucker punched him and knocked him out. I admit that I should have not gotten violent, but years of resentment towards him and the rest of my family just burst open. In exchange for my family not pressing charges on me, as I could have been tried as an adult in court, I was sent to live with my paternal aunt, 48 female, who at this point was estranged from the family and lived in another city about 2 hours away. From then on, I have not had any contact with them. At first, it was tough, but later on, with support from my aunt and her husband, 48 male, I moved on from wanting a relationship with them. I transferred to a different high school and attended a university in my aunt's city and graduated as an electrical engineer. I later met my wife and got married to her. At the time of my wedding, I thought about inviting them, but went against it because I did not want any sort of drama at my wedding. From that point, my wife and I bought a house an hour away from my aunt and were blessed with a daughter a year later. Then, about a week ago, I received a Facebook message from my mother and father wanting to reconnect over Christmas at their house. I told them that I would consider it as I possibly have other plans, but would give them a clear answer soon. Later on, both Michael and Sarah sent me friend requests, which felt weird to me. My wife has told me that if I decided to go, she and my daughter would spend Christmas at my father-in-law's house, as she does not have to deal with unwanted stress as she is 2 months pregnant, and I agree with her. My question to those reading this is, should I go and try to reconcile with my family, or should I not? I am very conflicted about what to do. On one hand, they perhaps feel bad about what they did to me and want to apologize for what they did, but on the other hand, perhaps if I go there, they will try to make me apologize to Casey, which I do not want to do. Any advice would be helpful. Well, OP, first of all, your whole family sounds like they're just a bunch of a-holes, except for your aunt. She's the only cool one here. If I were you, I'd tell them I can't come for Christmas because I'm spending it with my father-in-law, my wife, and my daughter, and I'd ask them if it's really important to them to pick another time. That is, if you are curious to know what they want, or if you are seeking to reconcile with them. There are a lot of different situations in life that can help you change your mind, but I do have to say it is a bit fishy that after your mom and dad's Facebook message, message, your brother and sister decided to add you as a friend after 8 years, everybody, of no contact. This is why if you are curious to meet them, I would do it not on Christmas and not at their place or yours. You know, meet in a park or something like that and see where it goes from there. Now, if you're not interested in reconciliation, then tell them that you're just not available and to not contact you anymore. Block them on social media and move on with your life. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. MinuteBox3852 says, I don't know. As a parent, I cannot fathom going no contact with one of my children for 8 years after my other child did something so cruel to him, so he hit him. That is just inconceivable to me. I would totally understand if my son hit his brother if he ever did something like that. May be wrong, and I know I'm not supposed to say that, but we're all still human. Whether you can move past the fact they abandoned you to your aunts and turned their backs for 8 years is your choice. Personally, I don't know if I could. If you can't and don't want to see them again, I doubt anyone would blame you. If they do, they don't know the full story. If they do know the full story, then they're not worth your time either. Surprise Trousers says, oh holy crap, there are no good answers here, my dude. If Christmas is important to your current immediate family, I would spend it with them. If you are inclined to spend time with estranged family, you might suggest a less stressful time and explain it that way, very politely. Your family sounds like a bunch of a-holes. I can relate, but it sounds like there wasn't anything damaging enough that you all can't get through. It might be worth reconnecting. The pessimist in me says it won't work out well, but at least you can give it a shot. When you do, keep any conversations about the past between you, your wife, and your therapist. If you don't have one, get one. Aggravating Patient 18 says, it is never a good idea to reconcile at an important event like Christmas. Your wife is very wise to stay away from this event because it's clear they want to reconcile because of your baby. Decline politely and say that you will not miss your daughter's first Christmas, but you would be open to a coffee or lunch in a public place in the new year. They disowned you over one punch to a brother who betrayed you. It is very clear they were looking for excuses to discard you. You are only now useful to them because you have a baby to cuddle. Tread very carefully. Even if you don't reconcile, they don't get to see baby for at least 6 months. Additional information from OP's comments. This is the first time they contacted me in 8 years, and they invited me to a big Christmas family gathering. On the day of Christmas, my entire paternal side has a dinner hosted by my parents. The fact that they invited me on that day makes me think they are trying to use me. Also, here's how they got rid of me. My aunt after college came out as bisexual to the family, and in response, they disowned her. My mother is an only child and my maternal grandparents were not alive at that moment. The rest of my dad's siblings did not want to take me, so he basically gave me away to my aunt. Finally, my wife is really close with her family and siblings, and I have always been jealous of that. I have longed for a family like that. Alright, well the community agrees. If OP does want to reconcile, it has to be on another time. Of course, nobody gets to see the baby after trust has been established. And OP also gave us a little bit more context about his family. So now, let's move on to the update to see what happened next. But of course, I gotta tell you about my playlists, like this one, that only has videos with updates on them. Now, let's move on to the update. Hi there guys, it's been a rough 2 weeks, but thank you all for your advice and support. I wanted to post earlier, but some things got in the way. So let me catch you up. 2 days after Christmas, my wife began to experience unbearable pain in her abdomen area and she hardly could stand on her 2 feet. Her sister, 30 female, and I rushed her to the hospital where we found out that my wife had lost the baby. Honestly, the worst part for me was explaining to my wife what had happened. Due to complications surrounding the operation, my wife was forced to stay for 2 more days. Honestly, I have been trying to stay strong for my wife and my daughter, but honestly, I am struggling right now. Now, on to the update of the original post. Most of you commented on the same day I posted to not spend Christmas with them because of the significance of the holiday. I agree and decided I would spend the rest of the holidays with my wife. They never made time for me, so why should I make time for them? When I texted them this, I assumed they would try to argue with me, but rather they said they respected my opinion and could not wait to see me after the holidays. So I began to do some digging into my family to try to figure out why they reached out. Here's what I found out. Michael is a corporate lawyer who works for a major company in my hometown. Looking through his Facebook page, he has 2 daughters and was married to his wife in 2016. Sarah appears to be married to a doctor. She herself, 8 years ago, was studying to be a nurse, and they have a son together. I have a friend who lives in my hometown and has parents who are friends with my parents. When I asked her about Sarah, she told me that Sarah had divorced her first husband, the one she was dating 8 years ago, after he had committed mail fraud. Casey got married to Amy right after high school, and together they have 2 kids together. I could not exactly figure out what he or his wife does for a living through Facebook, but judging that they bought a big house in the midst of the pandemic tells me they are not really struggling. My dad seems to be going through a midlife crisis, and my mother is really into the wellness community. I then began to list the reasons why they wanted to possibly reach out to me now. 1. Money. Unlikely, because 8 years ago my parents' combined salary was higher than my wife's and my salary, and given that my siblings are not struggling financially, makes me think money is not the reason. 2. Organ donation. Could be the cause, but seems unlikely. A Redditor said that it could be that Casey, given he is my twin, would be my most likely match, and I think it's unlikely because he was tagged in a Facebook post skiing just a week before Christmas. And 3, regarding my daughter, they could possibly be reaching out to me to have a relation with my daughter, but I'm honestly not sure. My daughter is not the first granddaughter of my parents, so I don't know why they would want to meet her. They most likely found out my daughter existed because my wife's Facebook account was public. She has since privated her account. I then contacted my aunt, the estranged one who took me in, informing her about the situation, and she explained to me why they were reaching out to me after all this time. To understand this situation, you need to understand why my aunt was estranged. My paternal grandfather, 79 male, and grandmother, 76 female, had 4 children. My dad was the second oldest, and my aunt was the third. My aunt after college came out to her parents as bisexual and began dating her girlfriend. My grandparents immediately disowned her and refused to have any contact with her. However, about 4 years ago, my grandpa began to reach out. About a month ago, my grandpa had been asking about me and what I was doing in life and whether I was married or had kids. My aunt responded by calling my grandpa out for wanting to know about me after he supported Casey for what he did. And that is when the whole situation changes. My grandpa told my aunt that it was because I had cheated on Amy with one of her close friends, that I deserved to be estranged. My grandpa is a religious nut, so he looks down on cheating. He had been told by my family that after the friend who I allegedly cheated with confessed to Amy, she went to Casey and Sarah for support and comfort, and when I found out about this, I confronted and brutally attacked Casey and Sarah. While Sarah was the one who tried to break me and Casey apart, I did not lay a finger on her, and I did not brutally attack Casey. When my aunt was telling me this, my jaw dropped. I could not believe that they hated me so much that they were willing to make up a terrible lie about me and spread it around. My aunt later told Grandpa the full truth about what truly happened, and my aunt told me that he was shocked because he always thought Casey was a good kid. My grandpa then asked my aunt for my number, which she declined to give. I figured out why my parents and siblings wanted to get in touch with me. It turns out my grandpa had told my parents and my siblings that if they did not apologize for what they did to me and have me over for the family Christmas dinner, they would be cut off from his will. For context, he is a multimillionaire. So that's why they reached out to me, not to apologize about how they all wronged me in the past, but rather because if they did not, they would not get anything from Grandpa. What a bunch of greedy people. After hearing about this from my aunt, I decided to block all of them. Why should I respond to any of them? At this point, all of them are dead to me. I have a wife to support after what we went through and a family of in-laws that respects me. However, this does not end here, as 3 days after New Year's Eve, I received a call from an unknown number on my work phone. I am used to getting calls from unknown numbers because of my career, and when I picked up, I heard my grandfather's voice. He most likely got my number from my company website. The first thing he did was apologize for not trying to get in contact with me for the past 8 years. He told me he was very sorry that he could not be there for important events such as my graduation, my wedding, and the birth of my daughter. I was not really close to him before, so his cutting me off did not bother me. Later in the call, he told me he was so disgusted with the rest of my family that he is cutting them off his will and adding me to it. I honestly do not know how to feel about that, as the money would be helpful, but at the same time, I do not want him to use this money as a way to force a relationship with me and my daughter. We talked for about half an hour. The way the call went made me think that perhaps I could build a good relationship with my grandpa, but then he told me something that got me really pissed. He told me that he was disappointed that my daughter had not taken the family name. For context, after I got married to my wife, the issue of what the last name to use as a couple came up. For some legal reasons, I was unable to change my last name to my wife's last name, but we decided as a couple that all of our future children would have her last name. I, at this point, unloaded on my grandpa, calling him a senile old man and many other hurtful things, and told him to never contact me ever again. The audacity of this man to say that after what I went through is something. I will not let him use the money I receive in the will to control me. Even if I receive the money, I will donate it to a local charity, but he is a man of false promises, so this is unlikely. In any case, I do not care how he sees me. I do not want to have a relationship with him on the basis of money. He had 8 years to try to contact me and get my side of the story, and when he does get a hold of me, he says he is disappointed in me. Right now, both my wives and my careers are going great, so hopefully we will be able to cover our children's tuition. If I do send him an email, it will be when I am emotionally ready. These past few weeks have been really tough for me, and I hope to make it to the other side. My wife has set her Facebook account to private, and my in-laws have done the same. What they do to try to contact me is beyond me. Hell, they would probably hire a private detective to try to find me. I believe they do not know where I live, but you never know. I have thought of getting a restraining order, but given that there are lawyers within the family, means it will be hard. I am now done using Reddit for a while. Thank you all for your advice, and I wish you all the very best in this new year. Well, Opie, first of all, I am so sorry for what you and your wife, well, your whole family from that side went through. And regarding your grandfather and the rest of your family, yeah, as you say, screw them and move on. If he does inherit you something, cool. If he doesn't, also cool. Doesn't really matter, right? So at this point, I'm gonna wish you and your wife all the very best in the future. Take care, Opie, and thank you for sharing. Now, after all of that, I do need a mood booster post. So if you do too, then stick with me and let's move on to that. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user X Wall Street Guy. I cost Bank of America around $8,000, legally. A bit of context. I've been in the mortgage and related business for over 30 years. I know it very well. I never liked Bank of America, especially their servicing division. This story happened a few years ago. I just found out about this group. I refinanced my mortgage through a mortgage broker, and to my aggravation, they sold the servicing rights to Bank of America. The entity that owns your loan is usually different than the one that you pay to service the loan. I was miffed. I estimated that Bank of America paid around $5,000 to service my loan, as most folks at the time expected loans to stay on the books for at least 3 years. Another little fact, mortgage services are paid 0.25% fixed to 0.375% adjustable of your outstanding loan balance per year. It comes out of the interests you pay to the bank. About 2 months after the servicing switched, Bank of America announced they'd be charging a $5 fee for the convenience to pay the mortgage online. Truly an unwarranted money grab. I'm blessed that I can put a little extra toward my mortgage payment every month. So the following month, I took out my mortgage payment plus $400 in quarters from my local bank. I then went to my local Bank of America branch and handed them my mortgage payment in quarters and repayment stuff. I asked for a receipt of payment. I overpaid my mortgage to reduce the current balance and thereby reducing Bank of America's fees. The nice branch manager said that you can write a check. You don't have to pay in coins. I said I could, but I would charge a $9.50 convenience fee for the stamp, my check, and the ink used. The branch manager actually laughed and said okay. They counted the money and I got my receipt. The next month, the charges was still there, so I went to another local Bank of America branch which had gotten bad reviews on Yelp due to a hostile bank manager. I did the same thing. The branch manager said, "Write a check, we don't accept quarters." I said, "Shall I call the local state's banking commissioner, the Consumer Financial Protection Board, and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, US top bank regulator, and say you won't accept legal tender?" I asked to talk to the district manager. I was making a stink. After about 20 minutes, he grudgingly had the staff count the quarters and I got a receipt. I told the manager that I would be bringing dimes next time. The next month, I brought dimes. He accepted them but glared at me the whole time. After the payment, Bank of America rescinded its convenience fee. The month after that, I refinanced my mortgage at a lower rate. Bank of America only got roughly 6 months of fees for a servicing they expected to last 3 years at a minimum. 5 years to be profitable. One of my proudest malicious compliance moments.